Andy, do you want to go first?
Sure.
All right.
So I have found, so we talk so much about AI, I'm going to talk about AI. Search is an information retrieval technology which retrieves information that already exists. I love that AI is far beyond search and has many more use cases because it can create things that don't yet exist. It's generative. So you can ask it to find things or suggest things or to highlight things that aren't there yet. So I've done this as gap analysis where you build a persona, copy a web page into the prompt and say, what's missing from this web page for this persona? Amazing, right? Conversion optimization tells you the content gaps, right? Unmet information needs. But then I started playing with it for an entire industry and listen to this prompt. What are the most important topics in the category of, I'm just going to make something up, spaceship launch services, that are the least likely to be covered by industry blogs? What are the most important topics that are the least covered? Fascinating response. What questions do people ask about topic X that are least likely to be answered by the big service providers?
Wow.
What common assertions about spaceship launch services are least likely to be supported with evidence? Where does the industry fail to do its own research? What are the true statements about spaceship launch services that are most likely to be considered false? What false statements are most likely to be considered true? This is basically like, you can tell where I'm going with this. What
Sure.
topics related to spaceship launch services are most likely to trigger an emotional response? It will tell you that. It's got answers. They're actually quite interesting, like some of them expected. What counter-narrative opinions are likely to capture the attention of people in this spaceship launch category? So basically, if you want to do a thought leadership strategy, which is a term I reserve for literally like the strong opinion or counter-narrative points of view, AI is an amazing research tool because you can use it to show you assertions that are unsupported, statements, questions people don't want to answer, the most triggering, thought-provoking, emotionally responsive kind of topics. So, quick summary: use AI to help you find major gaps in the topics of a general industry. Scan through the answers. It'll give you, through those 5 prompts, you'll get 100. Ask it to categorize those and refine them, and you'll have a big step forward toward a really interesting content strategy. Give it a spin.
Very
So I think that's pretty interesting, Andy. It's kind of like in the category of taking tools to the next level. So if you use tools like SEMrush, they'll tell you the gap analysis. They'll tell you like the things that are competitive or not competitive, which is kind of what you're describing. I think what you're describing is just taking another step further. So like usually these products, these tools, they kind of give you a little bit of insight, and then you need to in your head process and synthesize and think about that insight in order to make it actionable. And what AI is doing really well is it's actually taking that step and automating that. So you can probably go through a tool like SEMrush and look at all their features and functions and then kind of brainstorm how to take it to operationalize those insights, those gap analyses, those topic suggestions, those title suggesters.
Oh, I love that idea.
Just
go through the tools and look at the features of the tool.
Yeah. But yep. This is a very specific boiler, like a template that people can copy, and I love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think one of the things you're going to see in all of those software programs is they're going to start to have a natural language prompt box on the right-hand side where you're able to talk to the data back and forth and back and forth. Right now, it's almost like when I do stuff for what you're saying, Andy, is I almost have 2 screens open because I'm using real data that's like, proprietary and basically calculated by SEMrush. And then, I'm also looking on, a tool like ChatGPT or something like that. What I think that ChatGPT does for me is it conversationally allows me to ask like one more question. You ever think of like that process where you're like, how to get to why? You have to like ask yourself 7 whys to get to the real answer. I think that's pretty cool of how you're sort of doing it. It's like, you're not going to get this in one prompt. You know what I mean? The prompt is going to lead to another prompt, into another prompt, into another prompt. And then the goal is how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. My question for you, though, and this is just a problem that I have from an SEO perspective, is I'm still in this like cluster mindset. I'm trying to create cluster content. When I dig deep into that depth of stuff, a lot of times I don't have the keyword volume to support that page.
Oh, yeah.
And I especially don't have the spoke pages that go around to it. And so like I run my editorial calendar by my business partner. He's like, great idea, no search volume. I was like, but it's a great idea.
Yep. Well, that gets straight to my little thesis about the difference between search and social, and that there are some topics that are great for search because they answer questions, people are trying to find the information. Other topics that work great for social are the more visual, the more collaborative, the more emotional, and often with zero search, like no interest at all. That's kind of where I started, was like search retrieves things that exist already. These topics are things that are deliberately trying to fill gaps. I wouldn't expect almost any of these to get traction in SEO. But they're exactly the kind of thing that would get traction in social, because they're conversation starters. I'm trying to find a gap in the conversation and jump into that gap. So of all the promotional channels for topics, for content that would come from these topics, I would expect search to be very weak, but social to be very strong.
Yeah. Thoughts, Larry?
Nothing new specific to AI.
Yeah. I think one of the things backing up, one of the things I was trying to say is I just watched this video by Brian Dean. I don't know that you guys know. He had Backlinko, and now he's basically has his own personal branded stuff. He's trying to do it to kind of celebrate exploding topics. But he was talking about a very similar topic to you and I were talking about, the psychology of a backlinker. And he coined the phrase journalistic keywords. And one of the things he said, and this is very interesting, is just like every time a journalist writes a new piece of content, the validation of why the journalist wrote that article usually comes down to a quantity or a number. So let's just say, hypothetically, we're talking about space shuttles, right? You're like, you'd be surprised to know that in America, we actually shoot up 1,000 space shuttles every single year. The journalist needs that number, that 1,000 number. And so when you create your cluster, one of your spokes should literally be the person that can find the quantity number, because journalists will actually link to that quantity page. So the pro tip that I'm trying to say here is have a page literally that says how many, or how many for X, how many space shuttles are launched each year. It's that how many page will get linked to from journalists because they're trying to source the number that validates their opening paragraph.
Yeah, there's Dan Schur makes this point. He taught me this years ago. He said that there are key phrases that have actually like linking intent. People search for them because they're trying to find something to cite. So if you can optimize a page for spaceship launch statistics, the only reason you'd search for that is because you're trying to find a stat, and you may very well want to link to something. So you know, the idea of optimizing a page for a statistics related key phrase, his theory is that those key phrases have actual link intent, which is kind of a big idea. What do you think, Larry?
Yeah, it's a kind of a mid-growth strategy for websites. Like, if you're just starting out, you wouldn't have the authority to link on an authority page, you know, for one of these linkable statistics. But as that grows, and you know, you're looking for link opportunities, you know, you would start with kind of these less competitive linkable assets, and then kind of move your way up to, like, you know, spaceship statistics or spaceship crash statistics, like you know, the more valuable ones, and I'm sure that would be a interesting growth strategy, although not that interesting from the perspective of like when I do a link building exercise, I want to generate like a lot of links at one time. You know, this feels more like a kind of a trickle, like, you know, you pick them up over time.
Now, when you would have something like Andy would have, could you build a link building exercise with such a narrow topic? Is that possible? Or unpack your link building exercise. What do you do on your link building exercise?
For me, it's got to be more news related trending topics, because then you can hit like a lot of news outlets, with the kind of a trending story at the same time. This feels more like an evergreen, linking strategy, which I'm sure that's super valuable, but like in the context of like agency work or like or the perspective of an entrepreneur who needs to like double their traffic like this month, sometimes the longer term strategic things kind of fall by the wayside towards the shot in the arm kind of activities. So
Can you tell a quick story about one of those recent efforts and how it worked out?
Sure. This isn't that recent. It's a couple years ago. There was like Zuckerberg was being called to testify by the Senate congressional hearings on election interference, and I just published some content around like how to create phony ads. Like here's the step by step. You go into the Facebook ad manager. You target your hot button issues like gun control or whatever, and then what you do is you put up. This is kind of crazy. You put a contrary viewpoint, like, and target it to the people who hate that viewpoint. And then and then we'll watch what happens in the comments, and the food fight begins. And then I could very quickly, and I ran like a $50 experiment and published the results, and that got picked up in Forbes. Like we did like a 20-minute clip on Al Jazeera, hundreds of links just from a 20-minute experiment that was aligned with a trending story. So something.
Love it. Would you call that newsjacking?
Yeah. It's absolute that remains to me the most kind of the WMD of link building is newsjacking, and if you want a bigger result, find a bigger story to newsjack.
Thank you for that. That's
or
awesome.
Just say the word Trump in any of your newsjack story. Watch the red blood cells just go.
One of the key ideas here, is not to target it to Trump fans, but
I know. Exactly.
Like, or if it's a bad thing about Trump, then target it to Trump fans, and that's how these things kind of spiral out of control.
But like in our space, you would do the whole, and this was so famous, and it used to drive me nuts. Is the SEO is dead mantra, because the people that open it are the SEOs. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, I do believe that it's the golden age there is a golden age of SEO. I think it's I'm using Google less from a search perspective, like, and anything to do with like synthesizing data, like that's ChatGPT, rather than searching through Google. And it's Google's not dead. Like the AI is still using Google signals to rank their content. Like it's just taking a different form.
Yeah, I was using that as an exaggeration of those were a million articles came out that SEO was dead.
I know.
Yeah, you know what I mean? To basically get the people, you would think the people that are actually looking at it were the actual SEOs. So you were saying make a counter argument and then sell it back to the person who would actually be outraged by that article.
Yeah, it's like be deliberately provocative.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.